It appears that we've started, and I'm Ben Coleman, your anchor host for the Florida Aviation Network out of Orlando, Florida. And we are here with a very, very special guest that we're doing a remote interview via Skype. Thank you, Skype. But Robert Delaurentis, and he's known as also the Zen Pilot. Robert, welcome to this format of Plane Time with the Florida Aviation Network. Where are you at this point in time, somewhere physically on the earth?
Hi, Ben. It's great to be back on your show, by the way. I am in Sitges, Spain, which is about 36 kilometers to the south of Barcelona on the east coast of Spain. And this is actually my third place I've lived since the coronavirus quarantine started. I was actually living with a bunch of monks, about 40 of them, in a place called Montserrat up in the mountains in Spain. It's a 1,000-year-old monastery. And when they announced the coronavirus, all the non-monks had to leave. For a time, I was living with them, eating with them, praying with them, and then got to hang out in their 1,000-year-old garden, which was amazing. Wow. And then from there, I went to a place called Tarragona, to a hotel, and then eventually that shut down. And then a friend helped me find this place up in the mountains overlooking the coast in Sitges, which is absolutely ideal spot for me. They advertise as a Zen villa.
I tell you what, Robert, I'll show you mine if you'll show me yours. Show me yours first. Where are you talking to us from?
Okay, I'll show you here.
Let's take advantage of this impromptu remote. Oh man, that is gorgeous. If you have to be stuck anywhere, I feel good that you're because this kind of interrupted your trip, did it not?
It did. I had planned to stay in Europe for about a month and a half or 2 months to wait for the North Pole to warm up. So for a time, I was still on track because we were ahead of schedule crossing the South Pole. But, the quarantine's been extended 3 times. And I just got word the other day that the Schengen countries, meaning the European nation or European Union countries, are going to stay closed to traffic until June 15th.
Wow.
So, yeah, I may be here a bit longer. The other possibility is to fly to a non-EU country. But last time I checked the possibility of that, there were no hotels and not a lot of ground transportation. So I would potentially go for a place where I'm pretty comfortable to a place where I'd be locked down pretty tight. So I think patience is going to be the best plan here for now.
I think you made the right decision. And Robert, for the benefit of those who are not familiar with Zen Pilot and what you're doing, what is your mission? You mentioned that this did kind of interrupt the mission. What is the mission that you're on right now?
We have a few different missions, quite honestly. The first one, we say one planet, one people, one plane. And it's about showing people that we're all connected in oneness. And the way we're doing this is we're connecting the 2 places on the planet where peace has always existed. So the South Pole and the North Pole, and then everybody in between. Actually, I got the globe over here. So it's a symbolic flight, showing people that the world is connected in peace. Quite honestly, the timing on it's pretty amazing because the coronavirus outbreak is something that's going to be solved through cooperation and not competition. Mm-hmm. So people, need to cooperate past this. And in the process, we see that other people are challenged in the same way that we are. And they're having, similar responses and challenges. And it helps us to see that we're all human.
Wow. And you know what? What a bold statement, because, there's a lot of controversy now about one world economy, one world, one planet, one people. But, Robert, we all have commonalities, but I think we should learn to appreciate and respect each other's cultures and enjoy going to experience other cultures without trying to make it all one culture. I think that's what you're trying to emphasize here, and living with the monks. And what a great experience that had to have been.
Yeah, Ben, it's not, when I say oneness and, the connection between people, I'm not talking about politics, because I think politics generally divide people. Democrat, Republican, this country, that country. I'm talking about humanity and the things that we all share. So, the compassion, the love of our families, the desire for financial security and safety, those sort of higher level qualities that we all seek out.
True, and I think we can sometimes people take it a little bit too far, because even on my homepage for social media, all we have in this world is each other. I mean, there's a beautiful little airplane sitting here behind me. That's a material possession, but what is that? I mean, it's just something to go have fun with. But all we have are each other, and that's a worldwide. That is a one world statement right there. And I applaud you for what you're doing on your trip there. And how about your sponsors? Are your sponsorship, are they hanging in there with you? Or are they writing you saying, hey, we're going to cut you off, Robert?
No, they're backing me 100%. I have some of the best sponsors I think anybody could ever have. And they're not just sponsors, they're supporters. So I get wonderful emails and messages, from them saying, hey, we appreciate that you stuck with the mission, and you're waiting until the window opens. You're not trying to rush it. And you're making sure that this mission is completed in good form. So, one other thing though, Ben, I wanted to mention is, I'm carrying experiments for NASA and the Scripps Institute of Oceanography. And to take, for example, the Scripps experiment, that's testing for plastics in the atmosphere because they found them on the ground all over the planet and in the water. So this is something that, again, is good for humanity as a whole, not the United States or a particular country. So the mission is very much doing things that are positive for the planet, like using biofuels over the poles. There's not a lot of biofuels yet in the US, but we're showing the world that they work. They're great for the planet and consistent with what we're experiencing now with the coronavirus, right? Because the air is getting cleaner, the water's cleaner. Maybe we're clearing out some of the cobwebs in our heads as well.
I hope that's going to, and I truly believe that. And there's a reason for bad things happening, and people always question, why did this have to happen to us? Well, we don't know, but there's a reason. We just don't know what the reason is, and that's a philosophy. But
that's a great point. When I was at the monastery, I got to interview one of the monks, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, is this punishment for the planet?" And he said, "No, this is the natural order of things. Disease and viruses have been around since the beginning of time. As long as humans have been on the planet, and that we forget our mortality, that we're only here for a limited time, and we think that science will always save us, and that's not true, unfortunately."
No. And Robert, I feel obligated to let you know that we are kind of isolated up here, but we're coming to you from Green Swamp, and let me swing around and show you. I'll try to do it slowly, so Obi doesn't get sick from trying to edit all this. But here's the front yard, and we're very fortunate to be up here in the swamp, and it's also the runway.
Yeah, I like the lemon Citabria, the motorcycle, and the boat there. I think I could have some fun with those things.
Well, like I said, they're material possessions, they're toys, but it helps pass the time, if you know what I mean. But
yeah. And you guys aren't restricted in terms of your ability to fly in the U.S. now, right? You can fly as much
anywhere that there's not a TFR, and unless you're a medical flight, you pretty well need to stay out of the sky, or they'll pull you out of the sky.
That's interesting.
But even flying around here, I always, just for what I say, grandmom and the kids, I call and make sure that there's no TFRs. And AOPA does a great job of keeping you up to speed on the TFRs at the States, at least. And international, AOPA is really a great organization. And I guess that's a plug for AOPA, but they do a good job for us.
Well, I have their decal on the nose of the Citizen of the World, and it's their 80th anniversary decal. And my commitment to them was to fly it across the South Pole before the end of 2019 to celebrate their 80th anniversary. And I love AOP. I've lectured for them. I write articles for them. There's some good people that work really hard.
Excellent. And speaking of the airplane, this is it's a 900D, I think, Commander is what you said, Air Commander?
690D.
690D.
The 900 turbine Commander. And it's the Gulfstream version with the 52-foot wing and high pressurization. It's a beast. It's an awesome plane. Very much
Well,
designed for this
let,
mission.
let's see how good Obi is if he's able to drop in a little bit of B-roll in if we're really doing this thing right. But a citizen of the world, is this the name?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Excellent. And Robert, would you mind, since we are kind of distant and remote, you don't mind if I have a peanut, do you?
Go for it. Knock yourself out.
It's we sometimes get too wrapped up in trying to be formal, and I do like formality, but there also is you got to have some personality, keep personality into it. And I really enjoyed our talk last year up in Oshkosh. And I guess I don't know if you got the word yet, but it's out that Oshkosh they're gonna go around until next year.
Yeah, I just got word of that about an hour ago.
Yeah.
I expected that, though. I think, with all that's going on.
Well, it's the responsible thing to do. Economically, it's going to take a hit, but hey, it's just money. They're printing it more every day, and there will be more. I do feel bad for the people that have had negative impacts from all of this. It's easy for me to say that because it does not have a negative impact on me personally, but professionally, there is going to be a lot of fallout from that. But we just got to get up, brush ourselves off, and keep going, and look forward to making it a bigger and better one next year, just like we're doing at Sun and Fun.
Absolutely. I think it'll come back stronger too. I know
it will.
Lime Aviation is now doing some videos they're putting out on social media. I think people will adjust, and make the best of it, like you said.
Well, we have to. What other choice do we have? We can lay around and complain and mope and whine and bitch, but it doesn't do any good. So
Yeah.
let's spend that energy, trying to generate positive notes and dwelling on that. That's the reason I enjoy talking with you so much, because I don't think I've heard a negative or a bad situation coming out of you. So you must have spent a lot of more time with the monks before you got to the monastery.
Well, first of all, what you just described is acceptance. And, you're sort of letting go of that control that's imaginary most of the time, because we can't control all these things that are happening. And, once you let go of those things, then your soul's a little bit lighter. And I have some training. I have a 3-year advanced graduate degree in spiritual psychology with an emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing. But, quite honestly, I think flying is one of the most spiritual things you can do. I mean, you're connecting with nature, you're connecting with your friends, with your aircraft, you're going to cool places. When you put those all together in a moment of silence, or a period of time where you have silence, and that's a meditation as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, Robert, and I know that you've put a lot of thought into your trip here, and every trip for that matter. But here at Florida Aviation Network, it is about aviation safety. That's where we springboard. That's our foundation. And talking about safety, and the root word safe is free from harm. Can you give me any examples where we're actually free from harm?
Not that I'm aware of.
I put you on the spot, but that's the right answer.
Right.
The only time that we're free from harm probably is when we're dead and leave the world as we know it. But tell me what you do, or how you safely navigate the world.
Well, I'll tell you, I've spent 2 years preparing for this flight. And the first thing we set out to do is identify the risks that I would potentially experience. And then once we had identified them, we set out to mitigate the risk. So, for example, fuel gelling, which is one of the greatest challenges of flying over the South Pole. We came up with a system where the fuel tanks were inside the cabin of the plane, where they could be heated by this Peter Schiff environmental system that produced more heat than the original system that was installed in the plane, and it used less bleed air to do it. So, we identified the issue, we took steps to mitigate it, we tested it, and then it worked effectively. What I was always concerned about were the things you couldn't predict or anticipate. And a perfect example of that's the coronavirus.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever thought there was going to be a global pandemic 3/4 of the way through the trip. Certainly not me. So, we just continue to roll with the challenges that come our way. And it was funny because just as I got closer to departing to the South Pole, these issues were rolling in at a much faster rate. We were used to dealing with things maybe one every couple days, but just before departure, it was like, I was being tested. And certainly we met the challenge at a price. It's pretty scary stuff at times, but we were successful. And I really feel like this is the victory lap now, because the hardest part is behind me.
And I think the term you used is mitigating risk, and that's key, because there's a certain amount of assumed risk about driving to the grocery store, or even walking outside. I mean, things fall out of the sky. I mean, it's very rare. It's a freak situation when it happens, but we assume a certain amount of risk with anything, I believe, that's worthwhile. And you just mentioned flying. There's some people that still think, remember, I don't know, well, I age you by a couple of years, but well before my time, there were the barnstormers, and all the folks, the whole town would come out when there's an airplane landing out in Smith's Field.
Yeah.
They wanted to go see the daredevils, the folks who were out there, just tempting fate and on a death wish and so forth. But there's still a certain amount of that stigma involved in our industry that is very small. It's a sliver of society. And but like you said, it's another dimension. It's a form of meditation. When you take off and you get up in the third dimension, the heavens, if you will. And I'm sure that as you're sitting up in the cockpit, what's the basic altitude that you're at on your trip?
Well, the plane can do 35,000 feet, but I think it likes 31 to 32 better. Mm-hmm. Everything seems to run a little more smoothly, and I feel like the plane's, not being stressed out as much. So we're trying to baby it as much as we can. Now, if I got into a situation where, there was some high weather, then I'd be willing to pop it up to 35.
Sure.
But that's, pretty rare that you can't get 31.
Yeah, usually at those flight levels, but if you get up, if there's some bad weather above 30,000 feet, it's usually pretty bad, and it's pretty easy to stay away from it. But
right.
But like you say, it's another world. It's a different dimension of the same world.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's got to be peaceful, smooth as silk, beautiful, clear, looking out, seeing the curvature of the earth at 30,000 feet. It's a beautiful ride, but also things can go horribly wrong. And I know that you're always in the back of your mind, being a true aviator, a professional aviator, that you've got your options, and you know what your drill is. You don't even have to think about what you're going to do in the case of an emergency.
What scared me a lot, Ben, on my trip, you're talking about, some of the risks. About a week before I departed, there was a Chilean C-130 that went down in the Drake Passage, which is some of the worst weather in the world. And two very experienced pilots, 4 engines. They had better weather, I think, than I did on my departure day, and they were only going about 600 nautical miles. I was going 4,200 nautical miles, and, it was just me as the pilot, 2 engines, basically close to no experience. So I just remember being very much afraid, thinking, what are my chances for survival if these professional pilots couldn't make it?
Right.
So, yeah, I think that fear is ever present, and we're certainly taking some chances along the way. But I think in the case of this polar expedition, there's so much to gain from the science, safety, and technology.
Hey, Robert, stand by just for a second.
Okay.
All right, back to your point before we were so innocently interrupted.
Yeah, I just basically, before I departed, about a week before, there was this C-130 that was with the Chilean military went down, and 36 people were lost.
Wow.
And it really shook me up because I thought, wow, this is a plane with 2 pilots, double the number of engines, going only 600 nautical miles when I was going 4,200. They had some pretty good weather, and the a lot of experience. So what were my chances as a single pilot, 1983 plane, 2 engines, no experience over Antarctica, probably worse weather as well. So aviation has a way of keeping us on our toes. But
Well,
in my case, I felt like the mission was worth it. It's worth taking, some risks.
well, and the challenge, I think, and we've got to start getting back to our roots, Robert. I feel, as far as the spirit of adventure, the thrill of a challenge, the explorer nature coming out in us. It's part of our DNA as humans, or else, there's a lot of situations that would never have been developed now, and we wouldn't have learned nearly a tenth of what we know about ourselves if we hadn't all been explorers. And I look at you as the ultimate explorer, because you're going in areas that never been before.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Ben. My expedition, my polar expedition, was awarded flag number 44 from the Explorers Club, which is one of the oldest flags. It's been around since 1918. But these flags have been to the moon, they've been to the top of Everest, to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and now this one's going South Pole to North Pole in, pretty fine form and a citizen of the world. So I think you're right. It's part of our nature to want to explore and, learn what we can and hopefully share it as well.
And I'm going to, not to put you on the spot, but thinking ahead here, I'm going to ask you to share some thoughts with either our youth or our adults that haven't thought about how they would actually get involved in aviation. But I'm going to give you a chance I'll give you the proper segue.
Okay.
Talk about what else you have going on. But
okay.
But the explorer and the challenge and the thrill, and again, we've got to keep the word safety involved. And how can you do it safely? And it's through keeping your options open and knowing what you're going to do in the event of something happening that you weren't planning on. And I think that's really the part of a true professional pilot, is anticipating problems and knowing what you're going to do before the problem occurs. Because if it does occur, that's just one more thing you don't have to think about and take up that bandwidth in our brains.
Well, I like what you're doing too, Ben. I know you're working on your CFI for tail draggers, and I mean, you're just literally adding tools to your toolbox. So the education process never stops. And for us, we're about to release a book called The Little Plane That Could, and it's intended for little kids, like a bedtime story, ages 3 to 4. And general aviation, is very good at helping to encourage high school kids along. But because the Delaurentis Foundation is a not-for-profit, our intention is to inspire kids when they first start looking to the sky for inspiration. And I was in South Africa in a shopping center going to get some supplies. There was a mother and father, and there was a little girl about that age. And as I walked by, she pointed up in the air at a plane that was going overhead. And I thought, exactly, the parents were busy doing their thing, but she was focused on the airplane. So we're going to start pretty early and try and get kids thinking about aviation and see what we can do. There's no harm in trying, and certainly as a not-for-profit, we're not trying to make any money on it. We're just trying to have the most impact we can on that generation.
Well, and it's fun. We're much in the similar boat there, because the OB and the entire crew, it's all volunteer, and we're not trying to make a buck. We're just trying to spread the word and again, keep as many people alive in this industry as possible. And we've learned a lot. OB's been around the block, and everybody that's on our team, particularly all of our hosts, they've got a real passion for this industry and a passion for people. And if you blend those two with media, we got to keep it pure. We got to keep it honest and keep it clean. So, but media is the way to do it. And I think with this pandemic that's going around, there's an awful lot of this happening as far as Skype interviews and Zoom interviews, and it's going to change the landscape of a lot of ways we do things. I wouldn't want to be in the airline business right now.
Right. I think with every challenge, there's an opportunity. And, maybe in this case, it's showing your passion. And, they don't necessarily, the kids don't necessarily have to have the same passion, but seeing people coming into alignment with their passion and their purpose is a wonderful thing, a wonderful example for everyone, not just the kids. So I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I've known about you for a while now and knew it was a good fit when I first met you guys. So I'm appreciative of what you're doing. You guys get out into the world, and there's a big difference between just talking about it and actually doing it. So the fact you're out there teaching people, the fact that this information is getting to the right, group of aspiring pilots is awesome.
Well, and we're going to keep it up on one condition, Robert.
Okay.
If you keep it up.
All right, I'll do my best.
Let's feed off each other and keep this ball rolling, because it's a big ball. Talking about the world, and it's going to stay rolling with or without us. It's going to be rolling well after we're gone. So let's have an impact and leave with with making a mark. And you're making a big mark. And I always I'm just in awe about what you have done and accomplished. But that's not nearly as impressive about what you're going to accomplish.
There's a lot of inspiring, impressive people supporting me. This is, far from a one-man or one-person show. I have mentors. I have, Susan Gilbert, Mary Mark-Dante, Mike Jesh is a commercial airline pilot. Guy Brian Keating is our scientist that supports us. There's so many people that are behind this effort, and I wouldn't be accomplishing these things without their help and their dedication. So.
Well, all of those folks that you mentioned, I don't have their names written down, but when I say you, I mean you guys.
Right.
That's you as the group. So
right.
You just happen to be the focal point and the talking head right now, as they say. So let's keep you talking. See you, Jack. There goes the neighbor. But that's if you enjoy this format. Heck, we'll do it again, Robert. Let's catch you out from another part of the world somewhere.
Okay.
But I know you're going to be there until at least June 15th?
I think so. I think patience is the prudent thing to do right now. And I'm going to try and make it to the plane, which is about 300 miles away, and start up the turbine engines to get the oil moving through there and make sure that everything's ready to go. But
just put a cycle, at least put a start cycle on it. It's probably difficult to take it up and exercise it without going somewhere
right
over there. So, well, that's good. And this is May 1st. I don't mind putting a tag on it because this is live. But May Day, May 1st, and we'll probably talk to you. Let's say June 1st. Let's just give it a month and see what we'll probably be. More better shaved. I'm let a little bit grow out, but I'll put more makeup on next time.
Okay, I'll expect it.
And actually, I'm going to start doing it from the cockpit of the Citabria. I'm going to roll it out, and I think that's a little bit more realistic setting to do an interview.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, the video quality is so good nowadays with these iPhones, so why not?
Yeah, it's going to get better. And we knew this was going to happen. And there's still some folks that are using dial-up rotary phones in the nation. But eventually, we're all going to get onto these things, probably being inserted under a fold of our skin or a hailing device, as in Star Trek. But we're getting there. It's technology.
For our documentary called Peace Pilot to the Ends of the Earth and Beyond, we use the iPhone for shooting some of that video footage when I'm in the air and sometimes on the ground. And next week, we're hoping to present that to Discovery Channel. But the footage is amazing. It's as good as GoPros, and we're making use of it. So,
well, I remember specifically last year, you were a little bit, I guess, undaunted when you were going to show up for an interview, and you're waiting to see a film crew and so forth. And it was me and my phone. You said, "How does that work?" I said, "Well, let me show you." So I'm glad. Hopefully, we had something to do with helping you keep and I hope I didn't mention this, but I don't know if anybody's thought about this, but you are recording things that you go around the world doing here, aren't you?
Absolutely. It started out to be a documentary, and we were hoping to get 5 terabytes of information. And at this point, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. We have 10 terabytes. So we're looking at now a docuseries with 8 episodes. And I've seen rough cuts, the second rough cut on 3 of those episodes. And number 4 is the South Pole. And I should be getting that in a few days. And I think everybody's just kind of blown away by the footage that we got, flying over mountains like Akamkan. It's the highest.
Wow. Well, I look forward to seeing that when it happens. But Robert, we're going to let you get back to your busy day. And as we both kind of sign off here, I'm going to swing around and I'm going to end on a nice clean view. If you will spin around and end on a nice clean view of your setting.
Okay.
And I think we're just going to call that a wrap. Robert, thanks for talking with us here
at
Florida Aviation Network. Ben Coleman, we're going to sign off now.
Okay.